And so talk a little bit about some of our previous demonstrations. We've actually been testing in this particular material, this family of materials, at the Wyoming ITC since about like late 2018, early 2019 or so. We had a demo. This is actually when it was getting delivered back there. You can see it was actually a pretty nice day, kind of delivered day there. That particular unit processed about 50 kilowatts, to give you an idea size-wise. So we're talking like 200 times smaller than our next demonstration, or 20 times smaller than our next demonstration, which is a hybrid system we partnered with MTR on in Mongstad, Norway, which is about an hour drive north of Bergen, kind of right on the fjords, also a pretty site. That was about a 1 megawatt demonstration. And like I said, this next one is going to be about a 23 megawatt demonstration. So we're kind of jumping up in about 20x type scales, size wise. And then this one is really the first one that would be a commercial size. 1 megawatt is a pretty good sized plant, but it's way too small for any kind of commercial installation. But you can kind of get an idea of beds. That was actually me in Norway several years ago. And these are these beds here, which are about 7 feet in diameter if you strip all that insulation and stuff off, and about 7 feet tall or so as well. Yeah, I think we can move on. That's about most of this. I'm going to give the floor now to my colleague Sarah. She's going to talk a little bit specifically about the community benefits, which is our main focus here tonight. But we're always happy to talk technical stuff too. So. Yes.
Yeah, that's the thing. We're both technical background now, doing community benefits. So part of the DOE requirements for OSED is a part of the Department of Energy, and part of the requirements is that we do some community benefits outreach. And so we kind of broke that down. So that's my name, and that's the email if you want to contact me, and that's my phone number. And my job is to listen to your comments and feedback and report them to the DOE and make Dave listen to them and incorporate them in the project. So feel free to pass that around, get that out there to anybody that has any comments or questions, and get their comments back to me. We have a website where we'll be kind of listing all our community benefits work, and so feel free to check out our website over time. That'll change as the project goes on. One of our community outreach things is we plan to make a community advisory board, and that'll be drawn from members of the community, and that'll be in phases 2 through 4. Who should be on that board? Let me know. Part of being not from here, it's hard to know what really works in your community. Who are the people that need to be represented? So let me know. I really want to know. And we'll be asking for people to be members of that board. And so that'll be somebody that kind of helps us interact this pilot plant into your community and not have it get negative impact on the community. We're also hope to kind of meet with different aspects of the community, what they call community engagement. So that could be community leaders, that could be community colleges, that could be tribal groups, labor unions, workforce organizations. We'll be setting up meetings with all types. We'll be having public events, and we'll also set up private meetings. We also will be making these reports, like we have just recently finished a social characterization analysis and stakeholder map. And I don't know if anybody is familiar with that, but it kind of is a description of the Gillette community. Just a few pages, kind of drawn from government databases. And that's one thing I would love to hear what you have to think about that. We'll have that up on the website in the next couple weeks, and only the people from Gillette can tell me if that's true, if that's meaningful. So let me know. Go ahead. So the next one. So another aspect of our community benefits plan is we're going to be doing DEIA training, and we're going to set up internships and seminars, trying to motivate young students to go into STEM careers. We'll be doing internships with college and high school age students, And we will also do seminars where we'll talk about the project kind of like this at colleges, maybe sometimes a little more technical, depending on the audience. We've done seminars at like chemistry classes and that kind of thing. We hope to set up partnerships with local colleges or workforce development people, unions, community leaders, government, even workforce and community agreements. If people are interested in setting those up, we're willing. We part of our work we're going to create a labor and workforce development plan. So I like to think about this part. It's not just the pilot right here, but it's also we want to look forward to if we're going to make carbon capture systems, we're going to have to make a lot of carbon capture systems. See, I know the scale of these is huge and they're very expensive, but if you're really going to target carbon capture in this way, there's a lot of these systems are required. So as we go into each community, I'd like to know, like, what kind of people do we need to build the plant? What kind of education do they have? How many people is that? What kind of people do we need to operate the plant? What kind of education do they need? Do we, like, if we move into a community, do we need to find a community college to train those people, or does that workforce already exist? And so to try to create a kind of a plan that we can use in the future to roll these out to different communities. And sorry to say, you're kind of the pig, the guinea pig. But I think Gillette has a very interesting story due to the kind of reduction in coal jobs and how there's that workforce there. And so I can see how maybe like carbon capture could fill in that need for the community. And then we'll also do an energy and environmental impact study, which will include an emissions and effluent report, which basically kind of talks about all the things that could possibly come out of our system and how they could negatively impact the community. So we'll kind of look into that and see how we could minimize that. Like, there's lots of engineering solutions to reduce pollution coming out of the plant. So that'll be that. And then the last thing is we'll be doing a Justice Party implementation strategy. And that's kind of more open, but you analyze all the negatives and all the benefits for the plant. And the reason you kind of lay them all out there is so that you can try to minimize the negatives and maximize the benefits. And part of that too is talking to the community and seeing, like, I can write this report, but I don't live here. I need the community to look at it and give me feedback and say, you're missing this, it's obvious to us. So that's kind of what we're doing with the community benefits. Does anybody have any questions on that part?
This is only sort of related because you're talking about your reports and stuff. Do you know if this specific project would be kind of its own section in your financial statements for the your TDA itself? Or would that just be in its own, like with research and development? I just like to see like the breakout of it in your financial statements.
For us, we financially, we break anything by project.
Okay.
So it's got its own project.
Okay.
It's definitely the largest project we have.
I've been through a few of these. And they work both of missile silo equipment and stuff like that. But when they ask me to show up to do their work, they already have a plan in place as to their goals and training that they're going to need. The rest of it, I've never run into in all those years anything like the systems like as far as the training base that Gillette has. Nobody has. I've been to several different places around the country. People find out that you live here and work here. They'll stop right in the middle of a convention. And they'll come across the floor and talk to us about what you have. Just give them chills to think about it. I had no idea that we had it. And nobody else seems to have it anywhere. So if anyone is looking for ideas on how to plan down the road, utilize the workforce, it's probably one of the most flexible that I've ever seen. And best trained for a lot of these jobs. this is an excellent place to start. I don't think you could do any better. And please consider taking full advantage of organizing your plan around what actually works for you. You're flexible. They truly are.
Yeah, sounds very good. And maybe part of our thing is as a community or part of the community benefits could be to kind of highlight Gillette as a test case, you know, what can other places learn from Gillette? Sounds like you have a lot to offer.
Sounds like you got a volunteer to be an advisory board.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That'd be awesome.
So if this is practical and it does work, and we were to scale it up to take care of the entire flue gas, of dry fork, what size of footprint would it take? 10 acres? 15 acres?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what the acreage is, but we anticipate that it would fit in the current area that's already allocated for an eventual CCS island at Dry Fork. So it wouldn't, in this particular case, it wouldn't need additional setback.
Okay, so when they build dry fork, they have land to build a mirror image right next to it.
Mhm.
So you're saying on the existing footprint of dry fork one, we'll call it, it has enough space for a full-scale project of carbon capture?
It does for this technology, yes. I can't necessarily speak to some of the other technologies. They could need slightly more square footage, but
Is yours the smallest footprint?
ours is actually pretty compact, relatively speaking. There are some bigger ones. Some of the other technologies also are about a lot taller, which may or may not be a big issue in some places. Some people are very concerned with like line of sight and height. Other places are not so much concerned with that. I mean, as you know, Dry Fork is kind of outside of town a little bit and mostly hidden behind little buttes and things. So you don't really see it until you get almost right there.
Yeah, it's kind of impressive when
Yeah.
you find it come upon it.
Yeah, from a distance, you can barely even see the top of the stack usually, unless you're in just the right spot.
Right. Thanks.
So the end product here, let's say they do develop a commercial size. With that commercial size, they will also be sequestering the carbon, right? I mean, they're not gonna be capturing it and
No, yeah,
then releasing it
definitely.
like in this demo. I just, you know, it's very clear, right? Because I heard you say it's parallel to your research. There's this research going on, by the University of Wyoming, right? To sequester the carbon
Right.
underground in wells, right? And so they're doing research on that concurrently. Well, can you comment on any of that research or
Only
that
in
they're
a,
doing in the sequestering?
only in a very general sense. We can't speak for Wyoming Carbon Safe, but that's the organization that's doing most of the exploratory work and preparation for sequestration, specifically in this part of the state around Dry Fork. The state of Wyoming, I believe now officially has supremacy, which means that they're able to make their own determinations on permitting associated with the sequestration and operation, as opposed to going through the federal government. Several other states are in the process of doing that as well. So those things will likely be online and ready by the time Dry Fork is ready to put in a full-scale CCS.
But what you're talking about is who owns the underground? And are we gonna be able to,
Yeah, I mean, it's
ownership of
the
the underground?
ownership and who's going to be responsible for monitoring and maintaining that subsurface aquifer to make sure that everything that goes down there stays down there. All of that, yeah. So there's a lot of different pieces for sure.
And then possibility of using that carbon.
Yeah, if there's something down the road. I mean, I think in most cases, you're probably going to be looking at multiple streams. Like if you've got a use case and you can do something with it as a utilization, you'll pull some off and do that. And the stuff that you can't, you'll look to sequester.